Good evening, my dear friends. I welcome you all to the Hindu and the Businessline editorial analysis on July 6, 2022. The current account deficit is a cause of concern for the Indian government. Current account deficit means the imports are very higher than the exports. So the imports bills are very much rising, and the weakening rupee is very much contributing to the imports bill rise. The exports of the key sectors, that is the engineering goods, has very much been very much dismal in the past months. The exports have registered a very nominal growth when compared to imports. There is a tax on the cess on crude production in India. The tax on crude production in India is because of the $40 per barrel, which is the windfall profit calculated by the Indian government. That is, earlier it was $70 per barrel and now it is $110 per barrel. So the windfall profit is $40. So a cess, that is petroleum cess, of 23,000 rupees is imposed on every ton of crude production. Then the export of petrol is getting a $6 per ton of exports, and the diesel, it is much higher. So the coal imports have risen, that is risen by 175%. The gold imports, in spite of an import duty or custom duty hike, has risen. The oil imports have risen. Therefore, the balance of payment situation is in crisis. The balance of payment situation is the excess of outgoing of money over the incoming money. Outgoing money is in the form of import bills, and incoming money is in the form of export bills realization. So what happens is that there is an exodus of foreign money from India. What happens? The US Federal Reserve increase in interest rates have lured many investors out of India. The foreign portfolio investors have left India and flocked for US. So the forex reserves are declining. The rupee is weakening. Now it has breached the 79 rupees per dollar mark. Therefore, the import bills are going to be very much costly. Hence, the balance of payment situation, the current account deficit situation are all alarming. So we have to rein in this kind of situation for survival, for registering a steady growth. Then the aviation sector. The aviation sector in India is ailing because of many fronts. The average passenger traffic in Indian airports is a cause of concern when compared to many airports in developed countries like UK, USA, and some of the developing countries like Brazil. India is having only passenger traffic of $140 million per year. That is a very low proportion when compared to the population in India. Even China is better on this front. Udan scheme, which aims at connecting small villages and regional rural places with the cities and urban centers, has not seen much encouragement. The aviation sector is the impetus for the tourism and for connecting the economic hubs of the rural sector and the urban sectors. However, much impetus has not seen in this field. Despite several reforms and several economic liberalizations, the aviation sector is poorly performing now. The aviation cargo sector, is still focused in urban centers and mega cities. Some of the airports, Hong Kong airport is having a traffic which is more than 40 mega airports in India. This shows that the aviation sector has to fight the economic deregulation which is happening, and the regulations must be made in such a manner that aviation sector gets its cheapest source of traffic for even the poor person in India. The Udan scheme, which aims at making the dream of every Indian possible of reaching the air travel, has to usher in some of the key liberalization measures on this front. India is having a lucky tangent of heavy market share, that is heavy market share of passengers. So that way India is lucky. Only thing is needed is that air sector, the aviation sector, needs some breathing space which the government only can give. Then there is the question of the handcuffing of the convicts or the under trials. In the recent Karnataka High Court judgment regarding a check dishonor case, the Karnataka High Court had ordered a compensation of 2 lakhs rupees for handcuffing a law student. So, there is a Supreme Court judgment, the key judgment in Prem Kumar case versus State of Maharashtra. Supreme Court had exonerated the police officer concerned, stating that it was the state machinery which was responsible for poor infrastructure and poor number of policemen accompanying the convict. Hence, the compensation was ordered by the Supreme Court to be taken from the state government rather than the police officer. The article goes on explaining that there are some measures to be taken by the state governments in ensuring that adequate personnel are deployed in police stations so that the number of policemen accompanying the convict or the under trial increases day by day. An under trial is a person who is temporarily in jail and who has to be accompanied to court and back. A convict is a person whose trial is proved beyond a doubt. Both the convict and the under trial, handcuffing should be necessary only when the chances are there that they may escape. The National Crime Reports Bureau, released by the Ministry of Home Affairs, has stated that about 800 convicts had escaped from police custody on transit. Therefore, the Supreme Court judgment must be studied by the state in the case of Prem Kumar, and the adequate facilities should be provided. The recruitment should be made in the police stations so that policemen are adequately having personnel to accompany the convict or the under trial. Moving on to the business line, it discusses on the taxes being imposed on the petrol crude production in India. It says that the surcharge or cess of 23,000 rupees per ton is being imposed on the crude production in India. This is because there is a difference of $40 per barrel on the petroleum crude production. Therefore, what happens is that this is calculated by the Indian government as the windfall gain, and this windfall gain is being taxed, and there is a tax on exports, that is $6 per barrel on export of petrol and $12 per barrel on export of diesel. What shows this is that an additional revenue of 52,000 crore rupees is going to come from this additional taxes being imposed. So what happens is that by March 2023, government will have a very heavy amount of income from this revenue, whereas the retail petrol prices are not affected. Reliance Petrol and Nayara Petrol, they are reaping onto the benefits by importing cheap oil from Russia and exporting them by refining. What happens is that the central government has stated that 50% of the crude oil produced in India should be supplied domestically. These are the moves which will not affect the retail prices, however, will ensure a hefty government government revenue. However, it must be seen that the ONGC and the public sector companies are not made very much unattractive by imposing such taxes on the excess windfalls taken by them, because government is planning a sale of BPCL. So to make it attractive, the profitability of the sector, the oil producing sector, has to be encouraged. Then there is the issue of the SCCI, that is the State Energy and Clean Climate Index, which has been taken by the Niti Aayog. It shows that some states like Gujarat and Kerala have performed very well in the SCCI index. That is, they have been able to mitigate the risk factors regarding the environmental pollution, and they have been successful in implementing the clean energy. However, some of the sectors in this index is given a very overweight. For example, the discom companies are being given an overweight of 40, which is the reason why Gujarat is topping the SCCI index. Kerala would have topped the SCCI index had the weight should be properly allocated to other indicators also. For example, in reducing carbon emissions, it is only 15 points which is given, and in using renewable energy, still lower 7 points is given. So Gujarat is coming in 10th in all these parameters which I have told. The SCCI is aiming at reducing carbon emissions by 2070, that is net zero emissions by 2070, and our move to the renewable energy like solar energy and wind energy by 2030. So the points should be allotted in a very prudent manner for the each indicators of this index. And the article says that a just transition to the clean energy and the climate mitigation should be planned, so that the most of the states who are far behind, like Jharkhand is far behind, coal consuming states which are far behind, so they take their own time in getting to the SCCI index in a favorable manner. Friends, I have come to the conclusion of my article analysis of the Hindu and the Businessline editorials. I will meet you tomorrow with some more analysis. Till then, bye, good night.